Hello, welcome to He's Hop as Something's Off of Me, just Joey T. It is Thanksgiving that this podcast episode is going up on. So if you're listening on Thanksgiving for any reason, happy Thanksgiving. I am not recording this on Thanksgiving. Whenever you watch YouTube videos, especially, or anything that's in a recorded format, and as a viewer, you probably don't think about this very much. But when I used to do a lot more YouTube videos on the regular, like every single week, whenever possible, I would basically have a recording day. So let's say I wanted to do some cruise advice videos. So I would write an outline for maybe 3 videos, and then I would try to film all the videos on the same day in one sitting, but it's just so much more efficient that way. They are not all gonna go up on the same day on YouTube, but maybe one video goes up per week. So just one day's work, then I basically have 3 weeks worth of content, if you will. So it's pretty popular in the YouTube world, where it's not like TikTok where you can kind of sort of film TikTok videos on a whim. There are obviously some TikTok videos nowadays that it might be 15 seconds, but it probably takes quite a bit of planning and all that kind of stuff. But especially with the YouTube videos, and the longer, more production intensive the videos are. I mean, my YouTube videos are not super high production quality, but in terms of the content, I have to sit down and at least write an outline just to make sure that when I'm recording, as if you heard any episode of this podcast, I just talk on and on and on, and it's so easy for me to go off on a tangent. But if it's YouTube video where, okay, this is the topic of the video, this is what the thumbnail and the title of the video is advertising, I need to make sure I stay on that topic because that's why people click on that video. I need to have an outline so that I don't get too far astray and I hit all the points and all the advice that I want to deliver. So I sit down and write an outline, but I will film multiple of those videos in the same day, in the same sitting, because I need to set up the lighting, the camera, the mics, all that kind of stuff. I will change my clothes. I'll change my t-shirt for the different videos that I'm filming on the same day to make it look a little bit like I filmed them on different days. It might sound like a super simple thing, but it's, when you do YouTube all the time, you're making content all the time, that type of like sit down content. These little things really matter. If you're wearing the exact same t-shirt and it's in your videos over like a 1 month period, it's gonna look weird. Like, why are you wearing the same shirt for like a whole month? So little things like that. So this is a very roundabout way to tell you this podcast is going up on Thanksgiving, because this podcast always goes up on Thursdays. However, it is not Thursday. It's not Thanksgiving Day that I'm recording this. This is being recorded like the weekend before Thanksgiving. So there you go. If you didn't catch it, the last 2 episodes of this podcast, I recorded with my good friend David from Down Under. And a few of you have written back with comments that you guys really like our banter and our chemistry, which is awesome. Like, we're really good friends in person. So this podcast does not have an outline. There might be like a few bullet points here and there of like just topics where we wanted to talk about it. But the last 2 episodes that I did with David, we talked for just over an hour, and I split it into 2 parts. Go check that out. It's a lot of fun to talk to him. And yeah, I didn't really need an outline or just have topic ideas. I like a few topic ideas that I can pull out of the back of my hand if I needed to like have something to talk about. But usually me and David, we just very organically, just like you with your good friends. If you're hanging out with your friends, naturally, organically, you're just going to have topics about whatever, right? You go to dinner with friends, close friends, and, like you would be talking for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that's kind of sort of what happened. So I love recording with David. But anyways, it's been a weird start to the fall weather here in Los Angeles. It's very easy to just think Los Angeles is just sunny all the time. And it's been weirdly warm lately. Today, it was like in the high 70s, which is unseasonably warm for whatever reason. But I'm enjoying it. It's just gone to the point where I don't need to run the AC or the heat. So at night, I sleep really warm. And I usually throughout the summer, even if I don't need the AC during the day, because, like I can open a window, turn on a fan or whatever. At night, though, that's where I tend to overheat when I'm sleeping. So I'll run the AC overnight. It's just gone to that point where it's cool enough to sleep at night without fans or AC or anything. But during the day, I don't need to turn the heat on. So this is where I'm maximizing my savings. It's for those of you that have to pay your own electricity bill, it really matters whether how high or low you turn down the thermostat, up or down. But yeah, I don't really like wearing sweaters and all that kind of stuff. One of the reasons I moved to LA is that I don't need to dress up in lots of clothes. I have seen that there are selfies of myself where when I lived in San Francisco, for example, I had to put on this like thick jacket just to go outside. And I actually saw a few photos, selfies that I took of myself wearing these big, thick jackets and basically like taking a selfie of myself to remind myself how much I dislike wearing winter clothing. So I don't like wearing sweaters. I don't like wearing long sleeve stuff. I don't like wearing thick jackets. It's one of the reasons like I live in Los Angeles. The only thing I like about cold weather is driving in snow. That sounds like super, super weird because most people don't like driving that much, but like I love cars and I like driving. And so most people, driving in snow is just hell. Like you're just trying to get from A to B, and driving in snow is completely counter to that, higher risk of accidents and sliding off the road and that kind of stuff. I had some close calls driving in the snow from like years and years back when I lived in Vancouver with my family. It doesn't snow that much in the Pacific Northwest, but like once in a while. And that's the worst. When you live somewhere, you get snow sometimes, but not consistently year after year because people don't know what to do with the snow. It's like in Los Angeles or like SoCal, it rains once in a while, but not most of the time. It doesn't rain enough for people to know what to do with the precipitation, the rain or the snow. But it does hit often enough that when it does happen, like people just, it's like they forget how to drive. But I kind of like driving in the snow because I like driving. But if you get to like an empty parking lot with some snow, you can do some really, really fun stuff. Driving in traffic, doesn't matter the weather. It's always horrible. But yeah, it's kind of nice. It's that nice temperature where like at night it cools down so you can have like a really good night's sleep without having to run the AC and all that stuff. But during the day, it's like really, really nice to like just, it's still sunny, but it's not hot. So we're kind of in that like, I don't know, a Goldilocks kind of weather in LA right now where it's cool at night, but not cold. And it's sunny and pleasantly warm during the day, but not hot. So I'm really enjoying it. I think last year I didn't end up using the heat at all. Like I just never turned the heat on, and I just wore like a hoodie in the house, and like it just like kept the windows closed. And yeah, the income is not very high right now, so I am definitely, I just have to pinch the pennies. Like my mom taught me, we gotta turn down that thermostat during the winter. Funny thing about that, I'm getting more into listening to podcasts now. So obviously I'm recording when you all listen to it, but I've been listening to a few different podcasts, and I'll tell you guys the ones I'm listening to so that you guys can kind of, we'll do that. But walking to and from the gym, every day I'm listening to a podcast, and sometimes even when I start my workout, I'm still listening to the podcast. You just switch over to music, something like more upbeat, because that's usually, it's actually research out there that shows that listening to like upbeat music improves your performance when you're like at the gym. So I'll put on something upbeat usually. But sometimes you're like kind of sort of getting into the podcast after like your 15, 20-minute walk to the gym or wherever. So like I kind of sometimes just keep listening into like the start of my gym routine. But one podcast that I like listening to is called This Might Get Weird. And it's hosted by two women. It's Grace Helbig and Mamrie Hart. So Grace and Mamrie, I know them because I don't know them in person, but I knew of them from this is like 12 or 13 years ago from their YouTube channel. So Grace used to do this YouTube show called Daily Grace for like this like YouTube content kind of company before she went and kind of did her own videos on YouTube. And she used to do like comedy videos every single day of the week. So it was called Daily Grace. And that was one of the very first YouTubers I followed like 12 or 14 years ago when she was doing that. So I used to watch those like all the time. I used to watch them on repeat. And Mamrie Hart, she used to do her own YouTube channel, and it was called You Deserve a Drink. And she would mix up different drinks for like just random different occasions or for different people or celebrities or whatever. And they're like really good friends in person. And, you know, fast forward however many years, they now do a podcast. They've been doing it for, I think, several years now, maybe like 4 or 5 years now that they're doing this. This Might Get Weird podcast. So, and it's still going. They do one every week, but I didn't really get into their podcast until earlier this year. I'm late to everything that's trendy, honestly. But I've been listening to the podcast from like the oldest ones to the newer ones. So when I started listening earlier this year, I started from like the first episode, and it was recorded like 2018 to 2019. I think that's when they started it. So it was like pre-pandemic. And then I eventually heard them do the podcast at the start of the pandemic. So that was like a bit of a throwback. But as I'm listening to these podcasts, I'm only getting into listen to these this year. Anytime I happen upon a podcast I start from the beginning, and a lot of them, they've been running for like a few years. So I'm hearing content. I'm listening to episodes from like 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, all that kind of stuff. But that was probably the first one that I started listening regularly to. And other podcasts that I just kind of stumbled on more recently. So Mateo Lane is a comedian that I just kind of sort of discovered more recently on YouTube. And basically on YouTube. He's got videos on YouTube. He's got some of his specials out on YouTube as well. And I don't know if they still do this, but Mateo Lane has a podcast with a friend of his, and it's called the Inside the Closet podcast. And I'm trying to look up the name of like the co-host because he does it with someone else. It's Emma Willman and Mateo Lane. They do this Inside the Closet podcast. I'm not sure if it still runs. I don't know if there's any recent episodes, but they talk a lot about him being a gay man and then she being a lesbian. So they talk a lot about, queerness and sexuality and that kind of stuff. And they're both like comedians and entertainers. So like it's kind of entertaining to listen from that point of view as well. So I'm kind of listening to a little bit about that. The most recent podcast that I literally just started listening to this week is the Suze Orman Woman and Money podcast. So I'm not a woman, obviously, but I find it kind of sort of entertaining. So I'm a little bit into personal finances. I keep a budget and all that kind of stuff. So anytime I can get some personal finance advice in an entertaining way, it's great for me. So Suze Orman kind of does that. I know years ago when she was on TV and she did the Suze Orman show. Not that I would like mark my calendar to like go watch it when it comes on, but like if it happens to be on or whatever, on like a rerun on a weekend or whatever, I would kind of watch that. I like it when she gives advice to people that like call in or like write in or whatever, because those are kind of fun. She used to do this segment on her TV show. I forgot what it's called, but it's like, Can I Afford It? Where someone would want to buy something that they didn't really need. It was always something they want, like a car or go on vacation or like a boat or a jet ski or whatever it is. And then the caller would ask Suze, like, here's my financial situation. This is how much money I've saved in my 401k and my IRA Roth or emergency fund or whatever. This is how much I bring in. This is our mortgage. And then Suze would tell them whether they can afford it or not, like a yay or nay. So I remember that segment when she used to do her TV show, but she's got a podcast out now, and I just started listening to it. It's obviously, judging from the title, is for women, obviously, but I find it kind of entertaining. It's not like ha ha funny like with some of these other podcasts that I mentioned where they're kind of from entertainers and kind of sort of comedians. But yeah, it's a weird mix of podcasts, but different types of podcasts. But those are the three that I'm listening to right now. You know what the weird thing is? And this is not, I don't think this is like a narcissistic thing, but when I put out a YouTube video and even the episodes of this podcast, I do sometimes listen to them. And for a lot of people, I think it's very difficult for them to see themselves on camera or to hear the voice play back to them. When I first started doing YouTube, that was the same too, I think. I didn't used to do this when I was doing the daily vlog, daily calendar type videos on YouTube, however many, like 10 years ago. But with the more recent YouTube videos, first of all, when I'm editing it, I'm watching all of the raw footage. If I go on a cruise and I film a bunch of stuff and I put in together one of the after movies on a cruise, there's a lot of editing involved. I don't watch everything, especially with the stuff where I just set up a camcorder, like right now for the video version of this podcast. I've got camera right in front of me, is recording, and I have to edit that and I watch it. But yeah, just having done YouTube for so long, I'm completely fine hearing myself talk, seeing myself on camera, because I do all my own editing and production work. But with the podcast, for example, I listen back to it. It's kind of sort of, not because I like the sound of my voice, honestly. It's kind of sort of a quality check, quality assurance. It's like, okay, like I've edited this podcast or I've made this video. Is it good? Like, what are the details like? I'm kind of a detail-oriented person, right? So when I'm editing, there's a tendency to kind of sort of like, just get it done. Like, just edit and get it done. Because if I let myself OCD on the editing, I would never finish. And editing is not the most enjoyable part of the process for a lot of people, including myself. I don't hate it, but it's not like enjoyable, right? But sometimes I watch a video that I make on YouTube or this podcast and listen to it, and I'll pick up little different things where, I should make a note to do this part better or to like not do so much of this. And same with is anything you produce out there, right? You produce anything, and on the regular, you're gonna want to kind of quality check your stuff, right? So that's kind of what I do. So sometimes I'll download my own podcast after it goes up and like listen to it. And the mindset is not, I think my podcast is so great. I love hearing my own voice. I love hearing myself talk about whatever. It's more, how much of a tangent did I really go off? Like, is this a piece of work that I feel like I can consume myself? But it's kind of like, if I can't consume this content myself, how do I expect other people to even remotely want to consume it, right? Did I put out a quality piece of work? I want to go check for myself. So that's what happens. It's not because I like the look of my face on YouTube or I like the voice of my sound on a podcast. It's really to do, like, it's just, I really want to know and look at what I'm putting out there so that I can take little notes, and I do that, and I'll take those notes the next time I record whatever and like apply it, right? So that's why I listen to my own stuff, not because I'm like full of myself, really. Yeah, but yeah, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, especially the other situation I will listen to a podcast is when I drive to the airport. Usually in the car, it's music. I don't drive that much anyways, but I'm driving to the airport. It's like 40 something minutes or an hour, depending on traffic. And that's where I'll like put on a podcast. I used to just only listen to music, but after so many years, the music gets a little boring. So when that's the case, I just put on a podcast. I mean, podcast is like the hot thing these days. Everyone's like listening to some sort of podcast. I got into it like really late. Before this year, I never really listened to any sort of podcasts or anything. I've never listened to audiobooks. My brother sent me an audiobook that's like a Formula One related audiobook a year ago, 2 years ago, as like an audible.com gift. And I've never clicked on that. It was free, but I wasn't at that time into like any audiobooks. I don't think I've listened to any audiobooks at all. So I think that was do people still do that? I have no idea. But here we are now. I have started listening to other people's podcasts as well as my own for quality assurance. And I record one every week. So there you go. Speaking of consuming content, I have a note on here. Whenever I get a random idea, I will jot it down. Many weeks ago, I talked about, I think I talked about this, but I think I just started talking about it and I completely went off a tangent and I didn't finish the thought. I didn't even start the thought. I was going to talk about the TV shows that I watch, and I mentioned that I was watching season 2 of Heartstopper, which came out earlier this year. It didn't just come out. I think it came out in the summer, a little while ago, earlier this year. And then I was listening to myself talk on the recording, and then I discovered I completely went off on a tangent, didn't finish my thought. But I loved the first season. I rewatched the first season more than a few times. And that's usually the type of TV show or movies or whatever that I like to watch. I don't like scary movies. I like to laugh. I like something heartfelt. I like to be entertained. I don't like anything that requires a lot of investment or that requires a lot of effort to watch, right? So something like lighthearted, that's easy to watch. That's really what I want. So the first season of Heartstopper, I loved it. It was great. A little idealistic in terms of, like the storyline, the plot. It's like, of course they got together, duh. But that's kind of what I want to look for. I'm not looking for lots of twists and turns and that kind of stuff. I just want an easy watch. Having that mindset, I've only watched the first 2 episodes of the second season of Heartstopper is the name. I think I keep saying Heartbreaker, but it's Heartstopper is the actual name of the show. I think I said it wrong. But anyways, I only watched the first 2 episodes. And the first 2 episodes in the second season, even those 2 episodes, I was getting so much anxiety watching it. Because, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Heartstopper and there's any chance you might want to watch it, or you watched the first season but you haven't watched the second season, please don't listen to the rest of this podcast. Come back to it later because spoiler alert, there you go. I've warned you, spoilers are coming. Only for the first 2 episodes, but that's only 2 episodes I watched. But basically, I was getting so much anxiety watching it, I just stopped watching it because they're together now and they are not hiding it very well. Kind of brings me back to my semi-closeted days. I wasn't closeted and also like dating someone or had a boyfriend at the same time. But when you're in school, like high school, being closeted is like hard enough. But it just gave me anxiety because, okay, they are kind of closeted because most of their friends don't know and like the school doesn't know. But they're also like kissing in random public places in the school. And for me, I'm like, you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught. And that gave me anxiety because like not only are they going to get caught like making out, they're going to get caught just being gay. So they're going to get in trouble for it because the school probably doesn't allow that. And it's going to like ruin it. So I keep watching the first and second episode and all I can think of is you guys keep making out in the school in places where like it's very likely someone could see you, like in the locker room that you think is empty, but it's not. But I'm getting so much anxiety because I know you guys are going to get caught and it's going to ruin both of your lives, like in the show. So I'm just like constantly on this verge of like, oh my God, this is when you're going to get caught. Like, and I don't want them to get caught because it's triggering for me because as a gay person that was closeted And in school, where I started telling a few of my like high school dude bro friends, and we'll unpack that in a separate episode because we don't have time today. That's like anxiety, So I was like watching with so much anxiety. Maybe like a straight person watching it, maybe that has never gone through coming out wouldn't have so much anxiety watching it. But I was like, I was so excited to watch the new season, the first episode, and then like very soon into the first episode, I was like, this gives me so much anxiety. I tried to persevere and watch the second episode, but after the second episode, I was like, I need to turn this off because I'm here for I don't watch TV to want to to get anxious. I'm watching TV to be relaxed. I want an easy watch, like I said. And yeah, no, this is I just couldn't watch it. So if I'm really, really bored on a plane ride later this year, I will maybe try to watch it. I have it downloaded on my iPad. But yeah, it was, oh my, this is not the kind of TV I watch. What I do, just changing the topic a little bit. A weird thing I watch are veterinarian shows, which I find weirdly interesting. So I also watch, I think I mentioned this, I watched those airplane crash investigation shows. Plane crashes are horrible. They're few and far in between, but they're horrible. But I like watching it because of the investigative work that they do, where they look into like the reason, the root causes of why that incident happened, and then how they actually went about doing it, and what the outcome was, how they made air travel safer. Like I like the engineering investigative aspect of it. Obviously, like the plane crash is horrible, and there to be people injured or lives lost is not good. But I like watching the engineering, the scientific, the investigative part of it, and how they made changes to make, with the regulations to make air travel safer. So that's interesting, and that's something it sounds like an intense watch, but for me, it's like very fascinating. So like I can actually watch it and enjoy a show like that. I've been kind of also watching on Nat Geo, National Geography, some of the veterinarian shows. There's like a whole bunch of them, and there's like a few of them that I just like randomly watch. I like the idea of having a pet. I just don't want the burden of having pets. I was so close to getting a dog. I think there's a dog crate sitting in my living room right now. I was that close to getting a dog. I had filled out two or three applications to adopt a dog earlier this year, or like it was actually last year, I think. Earlier this year or like late last year. And there's a whole other kind of worms why I actually have the dog crate and don't have the dog. I've had a few people come over and be like, is that a dog crate in your living room? Like, yes. Here's the story on that dog crate. Since I brought it up, let's just get into it. It's not a super long story. So I was like, okay, I want to get a dog. So I start looking into like how to adopt a dog and what breed I want, and started getting some of the supplies actually. So I decided I wanted this kind of nice dog crate. It's a really nice looking one. It's not just like this weird, ugly plastic or like metal cage looking thing, but there's this nice kind of wooden one that I wanted. And it also serves as like a side table. It's very sturdy. It's kind of like the height of like a side table that you would find beside your sofa in the living room. It blends in with, all the rest of the furniture, blends in with the decor. But that dog crate had a lead time. This is back when supply chain issues in like 2022, everything was like a multiple week wait for anything you want to buy. And it would have taken like 2 months or something like that to get this crate. You have to wait like 6 or 8 weeks. So I was thinking, well, a dog crate is really important if you're going to have a dog in your house. Like the dog needs a crate. And I didn't want to buy like a crappy temporary crate only to have to like get rid of it later. So I was thinking, well, before the dog comes, because I was like convinced I was going to get a dog, and I was like talking to shelters and things like that. Let's order the crate now because it takes like 6 or 8 weeks to arrive, so that by the time I would have adopted a dog, because dog adoption can happen very quickly. If you really wanted to, you can, like, within 1 or 2 days, bring a dog home. So because I didn't know exactly when I would find like the right dog or whatever and bring that dog home, I didn't want to, like, bring a dog home without the crate in place. But this crate that I wanted was going to take 6 or 8 weeks. So I pulled the trigger and just bought the crate online, thinking that, okay, let's have the crate that I want in place before I go get the dog. But basically within the 2 months that it took for the crate to arrive, I then decided, I think when the dog crate actually came, I still wanted to get a dog. But soon after that, I decided, you know what? I should not have a dog. I think it was, yeah, I was so on board with getting a dog. And then a couple of months later, I was so not on board with it. Looking back at it, that drama was like a year ago. I think it was 2022. Looking back at it now, it's still the right call for me today to not have a dog. So I've dog sat for a friend like a couple of times. That's what I should do. I travel too much. I'm way too used to not having dependents. A dog is completely dependent on you. Completely, 100% for every single thing. Walking them, picking up their shit twice a day, feeding them, putting out water for them, anything that they need attended to, you have to do that. So I was aware of that, but back then when I was convincing myself, like, I'm going to get a dog because I do love dogs. And I was always kind of sort of thinking, oh, do I have it in me to take care of dog? I am a very responsible person. If I somehow had a dog, like, I would take care of it. But thinking more about it, it's like, it's not the money, but dogs can also be very expensive, like medical bills and all that kind of stuff. But I was thinking, back then, the way I talked myself into it was, well, you always wanted a dog. You wanted a dog since you were like 12, and you're in your 30s now. And, are you going to wait till you're 60 to have a dog? And there's always going to be some sort of excuse. So you're not going to stop traveling tomorrow. You're always going to travel. And one of the main things for me was I get on the plane at least once a month. And it might be a short trip. It might just be for a weekend trip that I go somewhere. Sometimes I go away for a week. Like when I go on the cruises, I'm away for 7 or 8 days. And I was thinking, well, I'm always going to travel. It doesn't matter if I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm going to keep traveling. I'm not going to just not travel. So I was thinking to myself, traveling isn't a good excuse to not have a dog if you want a dog. You just have to work with it. So you just have to be okay to have friends that can dog sit for you, or you have to go to like a doggy hotel or whatever. But, like if you really want a dog, you just have to work within what you've got. So that's kind of how I talk myself into it. Like there's never going to be a great, awesome situation where I'm going to be able to have a dog fit nice and neatly into my life, because I do travel at least once a month. I'm on a trip, if not more sometimes. And, I spend a lot of time at home now because I, do all my business from home right now. But maybe one day I have a 9-to-5 job, right? And, like the ideal person to kind of really have a dog kind of doesn't exist, because even for someone who's like a stay-at-home mom, like a stay-at-home mom, even without the dog, with the kids, it's a full-time job, 24/7, no vacation breaks, no lunch breaks, no dinner breaks, no anything. Like if you're a stay-at-home mom, that is like you're on the clock all the time, every hour, every minute, every second, without the 401k or like the medical benefits. So I was thinking the ideal situation to have a dog doesn't really exist for anyone. Like the ideal person is like someone who doesn't need to earn their own money, who's home all the time. Like that's like if you have a sugar daddy or you're a housewife, like, and those are not the only people that have dogs. Lots of people have, fully functional lives where they make their own income, they have other things go on, and have a dog and make it work. So I was thinking like, well, I'm not, I like if all these other people can have a dog and be fine, like it shouldn't be a problem for me. So that's how I talked myself into like, you know what, let's just get a dog. Like you always wanted a dog. You can make this work. Millions of other people have regular everyday lives with jobs and other responsibilities or kids and all that kind of stuff. And they can have a dog. Like you work from home and you don't have kids and, you at the time anyways, you do have enough money to like do this. So like you can just go do it. But yeah, it ultimately decided not to have a dog. Looking back at it now a year later, and this whole year, like since then, I've not regretted that choice at all. If I want to go get a dog, I can go get a dog, right? But yeah, I just don't want to. It's so simple though. What clicked for me is, do I want to pick up after a dog their poop twice a day, every day for the rest of my life? It was that simple. Like something clicked about that, asking myself that question. Now its answer is, no, I don't want to pick up after any animal for like twice a day for the rest of my life. Yeah, so there you go. So maybe that means I'll never have a dog. If I ended up with a partner who also really wanted a dog, that's a little different. Like if I'm in like a long-term relationship where we're living together and we both share that duty, and it's not completely on me to have to, if I only have to pick up after a dog's poop half the time and not 100% of the time, that might be doable. So that's different. Like I'm not going to say I'm going to go find a husband just to have a dog. Like I don't want a dog that badly, but I think that's where I will reevaluate having a dog. This is how my thought process works. I like to think I'm a logical person. I think most people think they're a logical person. Like most people think they are smart. Most people think they're funny. Most people think they are doing the right thing, right? But having like explained it to you now, it's like, yeah, it was really just all over the place. It's like I went from seriously wanting a dog. I went to like this shelter and actually like played around with the dogs. Actually submitted a few applications to adopt dogs. Luckily, none of those. I didn't get any of those, I guess. If I did get a dog though, like at that time where if I somehow actually got a dog, I think I would really love the dog. And even though it might be like all this extra responsibility and work to do it, I think I would be happy with the dog. But also looking back at it now, I'm equally happy not having the dog. So yeah, it doesn't make that much logical sense, does it? It's a little bit like neither here nor there. But I went from like almost getting a dog, I have a leash and I have poop bags in my pantry right now. And that dog crate I told you about, I was sitting in my living room, and like a month or two later, it became, no, I'm not getting a dog. And I'm very comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that I don't have a dog right now. But to have such a dramatic swing on a pretty big decision, it's not like, oh my God, like please don't get someone a dog for it's like a present. I guess families sometimes get dogs for like their kids and stuff, but that's like a family decision. That's fine. But yeah, like it's otherwise such a big decision that I don't think you should do it as like a gift for someone who's not really suspecting it. But anyways, yeah, I like to have swing so dramatic from like a hard yes to a hard no in the matter of like, I don't know, I think maybe like a few weeks or like a couple weeks or something. It's not really like me, but yeah, I'm kind of glad I don't have the dog now. I love dogs. I just don't think I want to have a dog. So I do have some friends that, a couple of friends that I dog sit for them a couple of times, and that's fun. Like I don't need to worry about teaching them. I don't have to worry about spoiling the dog. If I got a dog, I think I'd probably be more of a strict pet owner than like a lax one. The dog needs to behave, at least yeah, the dog just needs to behave. But with this dog that I dog sit every once in a great while, I get to spoil the dog and I don't have to worry about the repercussions, which is like really awesome. I can feed the dog as many doggy treats as I want so that the dog will listen to me. This dog is extremely food motivated. And I don't have to worry about it creating bad habits. It's not my dog. My friends kind of sort of know this, so I don't think they listen to this podcast. But like, I'm not ruining your dog, but I definitely do spoil that dog when he stays with me because it's not my dog and I get to spoil him. So, all right. There you go. That will be another episode of the podcast. So remember, the video version of this podcast is available on Spotify and also on my YouTube channel, just Joey T. I'm actually wearing one of my favorite tops, this sleeveless tee that I have. It's from Top Shop. I don't know if that store even exists anymore, but I got this, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And this is one of my most favorite shirts that I have. And if you watch the video show, the podcast, you can see me wearing it and know what it looks like. But until next time, bye.